Oh, that was a terrible cut. Oh, ruined the vibe. Oh, that was awful, 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 awful. Oh well. That's what you get when I was using a second machine, and usually that's not my normal workflow. Wow, that was crazy. Mark Kulak, Houstonic.live. Oh, I got a WUSA feature going on right now, I guess. It's late. It is Monday, March 30th, 2026. Hope your day's better than mine has been. But sometimes you just have one of those days where it's all just wall to wall. I don't know what else to say. And you just got to keep on moving forward. Again, 11:32, March 30th, 2026. Um, uh, we'll see what happens in this show. I don't plan for this to be a long program. What we're going to be covering on Houstonic.live, this episode 1501, a show brought to you by someone who was a engineer and a competitive intelligence analyst in the big tech data storage industry, is is reviewing an archive that has been available for some time. I don't know if this whole archive has been available for a good reason or not. Not really sure. It's more extensive and more relevant than I thought it was when I first accessed it. I'm referring to the archive from a journalist from the Ohio or the Columbus Free Press named Bob Fitrakis, or Robert Fitrakis, and I'm mentioning him because his reporting, which started decades ago, actually, he's in his 70s right now, forms the basis for multiple major events and working assumptions right now. I come from the United States of America. That's where I broadcast from. I have a very U.S.-centric audience, and that's fine. If you're from outside the United States, you might find it very interesting and valuable just the same. I follow different channels around the world, and usually they are broadcasting to their own. I find them best when they seem to be focusing on their own audiences as opposed to trying to manipulate what people outside of the country think. But anyways, the stories, of course, the legendary story right now, and all of the talk about a man named Jeffrey Epstein, who's most believe he's been dead for a few years, but he may not have been after all. And there's almost as much being written these days about Jeffrey Epstein as World War II and John F. Kennedy assassination. And much of it is just based upon filling in the blanks from anonymous sources. And the level of wild speculation is involving this man, Jeffrey Epstein, it's insane. And people just take it on faith that the underlying assumptions are true. And if you go through the reporting from Bob Fitrakis out of Columbus, you can see major, alarming, damning discrepancies between what he said and when he said it, and what the takeaways have been from his reporting. I haven't made any suggestion that his reporting is wrong. Quite to the contrary, he seems to. When he's talking about opinions, he says such. But anyways, before I go down that path too far, I'm going to show you how to access the relevant articles. We'll do a couple of quick searches together. And the reason why I became aware of this reporting, late 1990s and early 2000s, of Bob Fitrakis, who again is still active. He's ran for political office before as well in the state of Ohio, is because he wrote a lot of stories on a large United States government science contractor, I don't know how else to say it, called Battelle, that's in Columbus, that shares a lot of real estate and is in very close proximity to the University of Ohio, and has done a lot of work involving, well, everything from the space program, but in this case, genetic vaccines. And it was coordinating efforts around 2001, around the time of the September 11th, 2001 attacks event in the United States of America, as well as the biological terror event, the anthrax letters, Amerithrax is what some would call it. And I've been thinking that it was very odd over this last year how close in proximity Columbus is, and the Ohio State University is, and Battelle is, to the man who has I think been the wealthiest man in the state of Ohio, although being the wealthiest man in the state of Ohio does not mean you're the wealthiest man in the United States by a long shot. A man named Leslie Wexner, Wexner. And Les Wexner, there is a absolute, there's a fury, there's a psychotic level push to get people to believe with videos and books and podcasts that somehow Leslie Wexner's fortune and his success is tied up with this Jeffrey Epstein since the mid-1980s, and even involves things like the Iran Contra affair. And it's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. I'll show you because, and the Whitney Webb books are the ones that are damning here, because the Whitney Webb books say that Bob Fitrakis has been reporting on Leslie Wexner and Jeffrey Epstein since the late 1990s. But if you go through his archives, he never mentioned Jeffrey Epstein until at least the year 2000. And most of what this Bob Fitrakis knows about Jeffrey Epstein in relation to Leslie Wexner comes from a UK article that was published early in the year 2000, which itself has no sources. So when it is said Jeffrey Epstein is CIA, how do you know? Well, Bob Fitrakis reported it. Well, how did he know? Well, a UK newspaper said it. Well, how did they know? Well, anonymous source. It's just taken as fact right now. There is no evidence. There is no evidence that does not come as not anonymous, mysterious, undeclared. There is no evidence whatsoever that Jeffrey Epstein knew Les Wexner before 1991. There is no evidence whatsoever, other than so-and-so cited so-and-so cited so-and-so cited Bob Fitrakis cited a UK newspaper that had an anonymous source. And it's just taken as faith that they were, best friends. There's no evidence. And the fact that the proximity of Les Wexner to Ohio State, knowing that he's given money to the state universities, is one of the largest donors in the state of Ohio, and how important the work that was ongoing there was, or relevant was, to the DNA vaccines. And it even involves among the most important career associates of Robert Malone. Again, Dr. Robert Malone, a name I say so often. It's terrible, but nonetheless, you cannot, if you have an open mind, and if you're not a paid shill, if you're not here to do the devil's work, if you're not here to screw with the future of the United States, if you're not here to control narratives, and if you have a genuine open mind, and if you aren't manipulated by anonymous sources and white teeth, you will see that you can understand more about Amerithrax, the Human Genome Project, September 11th, 2001, all the way up to COVID-19, and even West Nile virus, and even, well, I shouldn't say West Nile virus, but the one I was going for was Zika virus, and there's several other events, including the death of Jesse Gelsinger, and even espionage where the United States health institutes right now are run by the United Nations and or India or the British East India Company or whatever the heck you want to call it, you'll see all of that. But you can't see it if your focus is on the charm and your focus and you're seduced by anonymous sources. So, if you go to the page, I just started tonight. Bob Fitrakis, okay? Fitrakis, 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 Rakis. I have a link to the current Wikipedia page. I only captured the content of the current Wikipedia page, Bob Fitrakis. I have to admit, I do not disagree with quite a few things that he says. All right, Bob Fitrakis is an advocate against the death penalty. I'm not an advocate, but I don't believe in the death penalty. I just don't. I understand the human desire to want revenge, and I even understand the rationale of that people had once of severely punishing traitors in the harshest possible way. I get it, but my faith is against it. I'm against it. I agree with a lot of these things he says about prison reform. There's, but not, again, there's a lot of things I would disagree with him on. He could be a bad actor. I don't know him personally. But what I do know, okay, is that his reporting has been used for a wide variety of things. Now, whether or not that's because he's pushed it out there, I don't know. He's talked about election reform. He's questioned election results. Now, I don't know if he's right or not, but I'll tell you what. I have no confidence that I, as a United States citizen, would be able to successfully audit any election, period. And the fact that I wouldn't even know where to start, and there is no clear way to audit. You just have to take it on faith that the government organizations are doing what they're supposed to do. It's a total shit show. So, again, the elections could be wildly off and wildly corrupt. I don't know. All I can say is I don't believe I can audit them in any useful way. So why should I believe it? Knowing that my own government will lie about an opioid epidemic that's killed over 1 million people right now, why would I believe that they would be really accurate when it comes to tallying votes? Of course I won't believe that. All right? I want to believe that they would be accurate on both, but I'm not. So I want to say is that my position here is not that Bob Fitrakis is a bad actor, okay? I think I would agree with him on quite a few things. I would disagree on a lot of other things. So that's not really the point here. The point is how his work has been used, all right? He's not the person that I can tell has been saying things like Jeffrey Epstein, I can't see him making stuff up. I can see him maybe embellishing some things a few times. I can see his bias come through. But I can't see him just radically making things up, anonymous whistleblowers and stuff. He's been working for a long time at Columbus State Community College. I also think I thought he worked at University of Ohio State University. What I can show you is that I have 2 additional pages I made for him. One of them is his articles, which he wrote, which were archived, and he posted this from 1996 to 1999, and another set of archived articles from the year 2000 to 2002. It says 3, but I'm not going to bore you with the details there. So if you click on this, the first one, okay, Bob Fitrakis, his articles from 1996 to 1999. I'll show you what I mean. Here's one of the links, okay? Fitrakis.org, WP content, uploads, 2015-07, 1996, index.doc. That's the URL, the Universal Resource Locator, for a Microsoft Word document, which is about 100 to 150 pages long, which contains all the text of all of his articles from the year 1996. I don't know why he did these, but he uploaded them, and they are freely downloadable. He also did it for 1997, 1998, 1999, 2000, 2001, and 2002. Each of these documents are between 100, maybe one, there might be one that's smaller, say 70 or 80 pages. Some of them are almost 200 pages long. I copied all of the text from 96 to 99. I put those in one file, one page that you can view. I downloaded all the text from the year 2000 to 2002, and I put that in a separate one. I would have put it all on one page, but there's just too much. I've also started to go through the articles one by one and find ones which are, while perhaps very good reporting, not relevant to the things which I tend to focus most on. He has written a lot, for example, about a scheduled execution of I don't know what the killer's name was, and I guess that there was a lot of debate about whether or not there would be a stay on the execution, and then there was a senator or another government official involved in this, and I don't know the details. I don't know if it was just, unjust, whatever the case. Okay, even though it might have been great reporting, I've been cutting out some things just to make it a little bit easier. But if I did more than 3% of that so far, that would actually be high. I think I've done very, very little because there's just so much there. So now within these two text files or web pages, you can search for keywords and you can see when Bob Fitrakis started to say certain things. So here, for 1996 to 1999, if I do a Control F and if I search for Epstein, I find no hits. In other words, Bob Fitrakis never said Epstein, period, before 2000. He just didn't say it. So anyone that's saying that Bob Fitrakis has been reporting on the Jeffrey Epstein and Les Wexner relationship since the 1990s, they're wrong. It's just they're wrong. Period. They're wrong. He hasn't been. Now, if we go to the other page, 2000 to 2003, we do a Control F here, search for Epstein again, okay? Here, okay, Wexner's royal connection. He first reported on it on January 25th, 2001. That's the first time he said Epstein, okay? And it's in an article titled Media Watch, Wexner's Royal Connection. All right, I'll read the first paragraph. Imagine Columbus alive surprise last week when Nigel Rosser, a British journalist and reported confidant of the royal family, contacted us to inquire about Prince Andrew's Central Ohio connection. Rosser had read two award-winning Alive stories, the Shapiro Murder File and Spook Air, and wanted to chat about our own Leslie Wexner and his top aide, the mysterious Jeffrey Epstein. Rosser's article, published in the London Evening Standard on January 22nd, describes Prince Andrew's recent behavior as erratic, greatly upsetting to the royal family. The prince has been so busy partying with his new American pals, even his ex-wife Fergie is complaining. So let me go to, again, Houstonic.live. Click on the E's. We'll go to the Jeffrey Epstein, okay? And it's hard to get things on him. Like I've said, throughout the 1980s, there's been a lot of erasing. We'll go through this evidence again at some point. But let's go to the this article here. January 22nd. Year 2001, Andrew's fixer, and there's Ghislaine Maxwell, famous photo here, along with here they are walking together, and Jeffrey Epstein. This article, which came out in a UK newspaper, just says that Jeffrey Epstein is CIA and guns and stuff. This is it. Now, where did they get this stuff? Who knows? Nobody knows. It's just a myth, everybody. Somebody in the UK, for whatever reason at this time, and I want to remind you, okay, this is 1 day after Bush is sworn into office. 1 day after Bush is sworn into office on the year 2001, a 9/11 year, this Nigel Rosser reports this paper. Now, to his credit, I would actually say to his credit, okay. Bob Fitrakis probably doesn't read the UK London or Evening Standard, which means Fitrakis called him, say, hey, I want you to know about Wexner, who lives in your city. And Fitrakis was like, holy shit, I can't believe this stuff. This guy, because Bob Fitrakis, before this time, before January 21st, 2001, had reported on Les Wexner a fair amount. He never said it with Epstein, though. He was like, wow, this is pretty crazy. Another element to Wexner. This is amazing. So he ran with that article. Much of that article has been suggested to be or shown to be just a myth. Jeffrey Epstein, CIA. No, he isn't. Here's another possibility, okay? Here's another possibility. Jeffrey Epstein went to the this Dalton school. Jeffrey Epstein realized that he could make a fair amount of money on Wall Street, okay, but he was only modestly successful. His better success was in winning over the confidence of women so that he could get their dads to invest in things. And that's what most of his story was throughout the 1980s. That's the Jeffrey Epstein story. One thing led to the next. Eventually, there was the Towers Financial Corporation, which got wrapped up in Pan Am investments and a few other things. And before you know it, with that fall and tangential connections to Iran Contra and other military contractors, at some point, and one of Jeffrey Epstein's associates throughout the 1980s was an Indian man named Mohan Mirjani, who became, I've read before, almost a billionaire throughout the 1980s. Maybe they meant to say it was $1 billion in product with selling jeans for women. And being part of the fashion industry and living in New York City, Jeffrey Epstein was pretty well positioned to hear about other competitors to Mohan Mirjani throughout the 1980s. And I believe that one of those competitors, and I have it printed, would have been Les Wexner. So while everyone tells this story that, he's flying around on planes and with CIA and guns and Iranians and shit like that, this Jeffrey Epstein, instead, he knows people in the fashion industry in New York City. And I think his luck was running out, and because of his friendship with Mohan Mirjani and a few other people in the fashion industry, I believe he had an in with Les Wexner to get a little bit more money. And it was just part of the pipeline. Keep it coming. That's it. It's a simple, lame story, I know. And at some point, someone needed, for whatever reason, okay, Nigel Roger, I'm going to make a bet that if I dug into his stories, I will find something which shows that he was interested in the genetic vaccines that were being developed at Bioport and or Battelle Corporation. I'll bet you him or one of his most trusted associates were. And his phone call and this article, okay, about this man of intrigue and mystery, Jeffrey Epstein, the man of intrigue. No one knows what he is. He's just hanging out and going around the world with naked women and stuff. And he knows Les Wexner. He rented his house once, got it for free, did a little bit of contracting work on the side. Boom, there you go. They needed to hang something on Wexner because Wexner, through his philanthropy, was involved in multiple things. I think, again, tangentially connected to DNA vaccine work, which was ongoing at that time. It has really nothing to do with supermodels and drugs and Iran Contra. It has a little bit to do with Iran Contra, but not because Leslie Wexner was involved. I think it's because they need to hang it on somebody else. Now, one thing that is valuable, amongst many other things that are valuable here, let's go through again. Let's look at the newspaper articles from, let's see here. So this was January 25th, 2001. Let's do a Control F. Let's search for anthrax. September 27th, 2001. War correspondence, anthrax, ground zero. Here he is. What is he talking about after 9/11? Holy shit, he's talking about Judith Miller's germ book. You know what's annoying? Is everyone credits Bob Fitrakis of breaking the story and having the goods of some long-time relationship of Jeffrey Epstein and Les Wexner since 1985, even though he never said that. Well, he said he heard it from somewhere else. He did say that, but that source was the UK newspaper. He never said it before 2000, so he was not reporting on it since the 1990s. So people are selectively using some of Bob Fitrakis' work, and they're ignoring this. Bob Fitrakis was reporting on Battelle, and he was stating that his sources were Judith Miller and the Germs book, which came out on September 9th, 2001, including reporting about things such as Project Jefferson and Project Clear Vision, which came out, which was first made in the New York Times on September 4th, 2001. Why is it that people that they push the bullshit, but they won't use the other stuff that Bob Fitrakis says? Because this would mean, if people cared as much as they do about the sources of all of these wild claims about Jeffrey Epstein and Leslie Wexner, they should all be on a daily basis highlighting the most amazing, detailed, sourced, relevant, and remarkably well-timed books in the last 100 years of U.S. history. And that is Germs by Judith Miller, Stephen Engelberg, and William Broad, that came out September 9th, 2001, which clearly shows Joshua Lederberg is without a doubt one of the most important Americans in the last 100 years of U.S. history, without any doubt. And no one talks about that book. No one mentions Lederberg. They're all caught up in Victoria's Secret's sex gun-running conspiracy bullshit that's based upon nothing. And if you question it, they're like, oh, I have an anonymous whistleblower. I got 4 of them, 10, 20. I have 100. I have 1,000 whistleblowers. I got whistleblowers blowing whistles on other whistleblowers, billions of everybody talks to me. I got all the answers. But no sources, nothing you can print, nothing you can hold up in Congress. Just anonymous people and shiny white teeth. It's so frustrating. And you can open up the Whitney Webb book. Just search for Fitrakis. Search at how foundational his reports are. And then realize, oh, that's right. He was called by this Nigel Rosser in the UK. They told him. He wasn't even looking for it. Going back to the let's see here, Bob Fitrakis' articles, which you can search for. Let's look at the archive between 1996 and 1999. If you search for Iran, all right, you will find an article. Let's see here. This is from July 3rd, 1996. It's an article titled Family Values. And it starts off with, hey, did you hear the one about the governor's chief of staff, Paul Mifsud, recently resigning to spend more time with his family? Family values, you got to love those Republicans. This guy's a far lefty. And you know what? At least he's open and transparent about it. So I wish more, unlike all the fake populists that we have right now pretending to be conservatives. The Bernie Sanders people pretending to wave, the waving around American flags, saying that they want American values and they love Trump and stuff. And they're just lying. At least this guy's honest. He hates Republicans. He hates them. He really hates them. And he's hated them since way before Trump. Anyways, I don't know. This Mifsud is not related to the other one that was involved in the whole Trump-Russia thing. Let's see here. Iran. Iran is mentioned 17s here. I can only speculate as to what was in them. So now he's talking about Hercules ships coming in 1995. No doubt SAT officials, I don't know what that stands for, as they're all trained, will deny this and claim they should be neither tainted by their CIA ownership nor their role, Iran Contra scandal still. So he's reporting on this stuff right here, okay? And he's talking about, how that stuff was going through Ohio. So let's see here. During the Iran Contra scandal, the State Times of Baton Rouge, that's Louisiana, right? Reported that Oliver North, so you can read what his reporting was in here when he mentioned Iran Contra, and there's nothing in here about Leslie Wexner and Iran Contra. Okay. Now, the other part about this is that there was a guy named Shapiro, Shapiro, guy named Robert. Is it Robert Shapiro or Roger Shapiro? This isn't the one I want. Yeah, Arthur Shapiro. Okay, and Arthur Shapiro was allegedly was killed. Could have been Kirked. I don't know. Was killed, I think, in the year 1985 in what was described as a mob-style murder. And Bob Fitrakis, obviously this story was haunting him. I'm going to assume that he believes it's real, and maybe it most likely is real. And he was mostly talking about how it connected to the mayor of Columbus, the police department of Columbus, and it only tangentially connected to Wexner, Les Wexner, because I guess Les Wexner and the law firm he was with was trying to buy a jazz club in Columbus. That's it. So Les Wexner was seeking business with a jazz club, and there was something about the land permit, and then there was a law office that shared with another law office, and then there's this Shapiro guy who gets shot. But it's hard to say. It's hard to believe that he was assassinated, because after he was shot, his car was stolen. I don't remember that scene in The Godfather where there's a drive where someone is shot in the car, and then they throw the body out of the car and then drive the car down the road with bullet holes in the windows. I don't remember that scene. That's usually not how it goes. It doesn't sound like much of a mob hit to me. I mean, they could have been a carjacking. I don't know. But it doesn't sound like a mob hit. And if Les Wexner is already a billionaire in the 1980s, why on earth would he kill somebody or have someone killed so he can better his investment odds in a jazz club? It just doesn't make any sense. And this story has been retold and rehyped to the point where Whitney Webb is willing to bet the soul of her firstborn child on the fact that Les Wexner is part of the mafia and had somebody executed in order to protect Iran Contra because his wealth comes from Jeffrey Epstein. She is willing to sell the soul of her children for this lie. But it's a mythology. And what's important is not just to look at what somebody writes in a book now. Don't say what somebody writes in a book today. What does the book say? No, you have to look at timelines. Because timelines, what matters is not what they say now, it's what they said back then. Now, some people think that timeline analysis is trying to catch people in lies. No, yes, people can get caught in lies through timeline analysis. Yes, with timeline analysis, you will see people's opinions on things change, as they should if they're a real person. But what timeline analysis does is you can see what was the context of this information about Les Wexner when it was reported. What is it now? Because they bear no resemblance to each other. There's no resemblance in the statements and the certainty of at which these things are quoted about Jeffrey Epstein and CIA and working with Mossad and the world government and the technocrats, and it's all about compromising people. And then there's, if you go to his closet, you open up the door, there's just women and children in all the closets. They just they just tumble out at you like boxes of soaps and towels. They're just all over the place, He's like a pack rat hoarder of women and children and over the planes, there's women and children under the seats and in the trunk, and he drives a Tesla just so he can, traffic more kids around in the car. It's ridiculous, these stories that he has, that somehow he rules the universe because he has a picture of Bill Clinton getting a massage from somebody. It's horrifyingly bullshit. And when you just look at the timeline of the reporting and what was said and when, you can see through the bullshit. We have a president right now, good or bad, up to you. We have people wanting to impeach the president, start wars, end wars, rewrite the Constitution, have new laws because of the absolute fucking insanity over this Jeffrey Epstein bullshit. It doesn't stop, and it will not stop, and it will destroy my country until somebody has the courage, the integrity, the ability to do analysis, and the balls to just say it's all bullshit. We have people more worried about a mythology of children being kidnapped, even though there's no million-person march of moms missing all their kids in Washington, D.C., and ignoring massive quantities of death in an opioid epidemic. Grandparents raising kids and kids growing up without parents. Nobody cares because they're so obsessed with coming up with their money bomb for Paul Massey right now. It's all bullshit. It's all bullshit. No truth on 9/11 right now. 25 years later, you could just watch it. You could see the buildings explode, and we still have people talking about which hardware store the hijackers bought their box cutters at. And I'm really sick of it right now. The enemy of the United States of America right now, even more so than the government, are podcasters who lie. And now, I'm just going to say it, the American citizens that give those lying podcasters money. They are all enemy combatants right now of the United States of America and the vision and the future of the United States of America. Everyone that gives $1 or a dime to people who make no progress and continue to twist stories, tell half-truths, brag and smile and throw parties about telling the truth. They are shredding this country right now. They are supporting all of these worthless politicians. They all get all of their money, their life, and their visibility from the lies which come through mostly right now, sad to say, podcasters. Anyways, it's all outlined for you, and you can go through it and look at your own timeline. The Epstein mythology is shredded. It is shredded. It is what it is. I know people are going to keep going on, but you know what? Their interests. You know what? Bob Fitrakis quoted the most important book out there. If you want to repeat the Jeffrey Epstein mythology, at least have the ability to say if Bob Fitrakis, what his sources were, and talk about his reporting on the anthrax letters, his reporting on Patel, the DNA vaccine that does tangentially connect with Robert Malone. Robert Malone went into business with Galloway, and the fact that Fitrakis sourced this book and the articles that were written and published on September 4th, 2001, before 9/11. Because if you don't do that, that means that you're exposed too. Thanks, everyone, for listening. Take care. God bless.